Latchford people, and the first item of business will be the adoption of the public agenda.
Move adoption.
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's unanimous and carried. No petitions or delegations. Motion for adoption of the previous minutes of September the 3rd, 2025.
Move adoption.
Second.
Anything on the minutes?
Second.
Seeing none, all those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. No public considerations, notice of motion or chairs reports. We're on to staff reports. Development permit DP 2D 23 DBS resources for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on receipt?
I believe Kelty will speak to this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning to the chair and directors. The SRD received a subdivision application at 4275, 4281, and 4271 Island Highway from the landowner for a 7-lot strata subdivision. And the conditions of the preliminary layout review, the PLR, issued by the Ministry of Transportation and Transit included the requirement for an ESA-DP for multiple environmentally sensitive areas on the property. Since administering DP 2D 23, the SRD has been made aware that the QEP report for the province for the project to the province was rejected. Without an accepted riparian areas protection report, the SRD does not have the authority to issue a DP. The province has provided the direction that the DP be rescinded and a new DP considered with the accepted wrapper report that's anticipated. Currently, we're working with the province, the landowner, and the QEP to receive an accepted wrapper report that will be a schedule to the new ESA DP and a condition impact assessment to address works that have taken place on the site. An approved ESA DP would meet the PLR conditions, and additionally, a statutory right-of-way, SRW, is being prepared by the landowner for registration for a 5-meter public walkway. And addressing these two items would result in the SRD comments within the PLR being satisfied. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question that I had was that does staff have an approximate timeline when the province is going to approve, because I understand that work is being underway right now for a new assessment. Any idea when the province would be giving their approval?
Thank you for the question through the chair. We don't have a timeline from the province directly. We can control when the condition impact assessment will be submitted, reviewed, and then approved as a part of the riparian areas protection report acceptance. So we're waiting for that.
Okay, thank you.
Director Winnie.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question. I was wondering if this decision from the province could have an impact on any other development permits that the SRD has issued. Or is it?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, this would not impact any other development permits. The system of notification from the province is through the SRD email planning inbox, and wrapper report must be accepted by the province prior to issuance of a DP, and that is the process that the SRD has in place.
Thank you.
On receipt, call the question. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. And the motion, please, Director Rice.
I'd like to move item B, that the committee recommend that the development permit DP 2D23 be rescinded.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? And there's none opposed, that is carried. Number 2, Area C Official Community Plan Project Update for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. Director Vanesh. Any discussion?
I think Meredith will speak to this.
Thank you, through the chair. So as you've received these updates monthly, you're familiar with their format at this point. Since the last report, of course, we have continued with our Phase 2 engagement with community groups and First Nations and other stakeholders in the area. This has most recently manifested as a meeting with the Surgeon Air's Community Association. Following this work, of course, is ongoing, and we are taking what we have heard and starting to put together the preliminary what we've heard report and to develop some of those early policy language that we are hearing from the community. And so the next round of engagement will commence likely this fall or winter with some of those preliminary statements to be discussed. And so, yes, that is the next step to look forward to. Thank you.
Directors, Director Whitty.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report. I really appreciate them coming here monthly and giving the community and myself an update on what's happening behind the scenes, because I know there's likely a lot happening. I do have a couple of questions. One of them, you may have slightly answered. I had noticed that the report says continued exploration into effective community engagement strategies to finalize next steps. And I'm just looking for what next steps means in this context. I could see that there's been 4 community group meetings since last month's report, but beyond community group meetings, where or when will there be opportunities for community-wide engagement on topics? Because I guess my concern is that when I've been reading the reports, I can't tell if there will be community-wide engagement before there's a draft OCP that's just taking the feedback of these community groups. And I'm just looking for some confirmation of that.
Yes.
Yes.
To expand on that a little bit.
Please.
Yes. As I mentioned, we will be taking what we've heard to date and providing a sort of preliminary what we've heard report. Now, from that, that would identify some of those early policy directions that we're receiving. The next phase of engagement in the community would be with those policy directions, but that's not a draft. So that would be more topic focused. We haven't put together what exactly that would be, but would be some combination probably of what you've seen in the past, which would be more potentially a survey, potentially, I know we're talking about direct mail out to some of the outer islands that we're not able to engage with in person as readily, but also an opportunity for the in-person engagements in, at the community hall with everybody that maybe you're anticipating. But those would be something that once we sort of have something that we can discuss more fulsomely, that's why we haven't done that yet. So we want to be able to come forward with some policy direction that we have already heard so that we can come back to the community and sort of test the residents of those policies.
Okay, great. I'm really happy to hear that. We don't have to wait till there's a draft. That was one of my concerns. Thank you for helping me with that. And I also noticed that the report here says that in the last month there was an update and a notification which was sent to subscribers. I was just wondering what that message was. I honestly thought I was subscribed to every single thing the SRD offers, and I couldn't find the information, so I must have missed it or shifted it somewhere.
That would be the context summary that was posted.
Oh, okay, so was
website
it emailed out as well to people?
No, that would, by subscribers, what that means is they get a notification when our website is updated. So when the project website was updated with the community context statement, subscribers would have received a notification via email that the website had been updated with new information.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Okay, and thank you. And that kind of leads into my third question, which is about third and final question. Just around the community context report. When I was sitting here at this committee table last month, I provided some feedback on that report, and I did that here because I was told that was the appropriate place to provide the feedback. And I just haven't noticed, I checked yesterday, and none of the changes have been made to the community context report. It's live and it's on the it's on the SRD OCP, Area C OCP webpage, but like, I just noticed that, like, for instance, like none of the links in it are functioning yet. And, the guiding vision and principles are somehow at the back. And I'm not going to get into the details. We know we talked about them last month, but I'm just wondering, like, and I'm not sure if this is a question for the corporate officer or planning staff or who, but I was just wondering, like, should I have made those suggestions as motions or just like flagging them was that? I thought that was enough, but maybe it wasn't.
The direction has been received. It has not been updated yet, but that is still on the to-do. But of course, with every task that we have, it has to be managed within the context of other work. And as of yet, that has not been the priority.
Okay, but it will be updated at some point so that if somebody sees Integrated Community Sustainability Plan underlined in blue, they can actually link to it.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
On receipt, call the question. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That's carried. Moving on to number 3, wharf regulation uses and fee structure for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you, Director Rice.
Meredith going to speak to this as well?
Thank you through the chair. Yes, so we were asked to provide an overview of existing wharf regulations, usage, and the fee structure bylaws within electoral areas. We only have wharves in electoral area C, but they are regulated under 3 different bylaws. The first and primary one being bylaw number 2027, which is the Parks Rules and Regulations bylaw from 1998. That bylaw included the 2 wharf sites that sort of were not Transport Canada wharves at the time of its drafting. That's Granite Bay and Hoskin Channel. Wharf structures and their related tenure areas at OM Bay and Surgeon Narrows were designated as park in bylaw number 573. And Evans Bay Port is funded through bylaw number 68, which establishes the reserve fund to maintain that facility. So returning to bylaw number 2027, which establishes the fee structure for moorage at Granite Bay Park, which is the only wharf where we collect moorage fees. And depending on the size of the vessel, moorage fees range from $2 to $4 per day, or $30 to $60 per month, or $306 to $612 annually. Fees are collected by a wharfinger attending the site at an annual contract cost of $6,900, which does not fully recover, or is not fully recovered through moorage fees. And of course, the wharfinger task goes beyond simply collecting fees. They also do, they are our eyes on the wharf and do some on-the-ground maintenance. In 2024, the total revenue from moorage fees was $6,259.42. In 2025, fees collected to date have been $3,511.84. So given the age of the current Parks Rules and Regulations bylaw and the significant changes that have occurred since its adoption, a fulsome review of the bylaw is warranted, as previously supported by the board. This work is currently underway through the development of separate Parks Rules and Regulations bylaws for each of the electoral areas. The review has not contemplated the inclusion of additional moorage fees for other marine facilities, given the overall lack of revenue collected and the additional resources and costs associated with collecting those fees, and the staffing challenges, particularly in the more remote wharf locations. But if there is an interest in pursuing that at the board's will, we could include consideration of that. Thank you.
Director Winnie.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report. It definitely gave me some food for thought. One of the things I didn't notice in there was that the bylaw regarding Evans Bay, which I would like to have seen, and maybe I somehow just missed it, but I didn't notice that it was there. Is it possible that it could be included when it was added to the minutes?
Included in which way?
The report. I know we've done that before when there's been something like a document that wasn't included. It's just that there's the parks bylaw is added there, but I wasn't able to read the Evans Bay establishment bylaw and understand, because it says establishes the funding mechanism, and I wasn't sure what the language was in there.
Oh, the bylaw?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Because it's a separate bylaw than the one.
Yeah.
So there's 3 bylaws, really. right? Yeah. So regarding the parks updates that you're planning, the parks rules and regulations that you're planning on updating, do you have an approximate timeline for, and are you doing all three electoral areas at the same time?
There is not a defined schedule for each of those parks rules and regulations bylaws. What I would say is that we are not doing them concurrently. They are happening as makes sense within each electoral area. So as an example, using Area D, we updated the Area D OCP. We are now engaged in a Parks and Trails plan for Area D. And coming out of that, an updated parks rules and regulations bylaw for parks in that area, informed by their Parks and Trails plan and their OCP, would be the next to follow. In Area C, of course, we are currently doing an OCP update. And so the OCP update itself would inform what a parks rules and regulations in Area C might look like. So the work is happening now in the sense that we are having conversations with the community about what parklands in Area C, what policies should apply, and that would inform a parks and rules regulations bylaw. But that work isn't happening directly at this time.
Okay, thank you. So it's not like it's an imminent, we're not going to have a new parks regulation bylaw in 2026?
Correct.
Okay.
And I will just say, just adding on the Evans Bay Port facility, that I'm happy to include that bylaw, but all it does is establishes the reserve fund authority for that bylaw, or for that wharf.
Okay. Well, I have had some thoughts about this, and I do have a motion, Chair, that I'm hoping to make at the end of this. But what I was really hoping for is that we could explore some. I'm kind of going to lean on staff to look at some creative ways to explore what possibly other jurisdictions are doing when they have remote wharves. That I am interested in our wharves possibly having some sort of moorage fees associated with them, and perhaps that's based on the honor system. Perhaps there's clear signage and there's an ability to pay by e-transfer, and I am interested in possibly the idea of an annual moorage sticker for seasonal or annual users of the wharves, and those maybe would change color every year, so they would know that they got their new sticker. And really, my thought around that is to encourage users that are using the wharves to contribute to their upkeep. And it really, I think it also provides optics and reassurance to the constituents of Area C that those folks who are most using the wharves are contributing to that maintenance and upkeep. So after receipt, Chair, I will have a motion.
On receipt, all those in favor? So that is unanimous, and that's carried. And the motion, Director Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. And I did send it in to Edith. I move that a report on potential wharf fee structures and cost-effective creative implementation for all Area C wharves managed by the Regional District be prepared for consideration of the Electoral Area Services Committee, and that the report include an analysis of the current Granite Bay Wharf fees and comparison with fees of the Quadra Island Harbour Authority managed wharves of Kwathiaski Cove and Harriet Bay.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion, directors? See none, call the question. All those in favor? I can't see Director Benesh. Are you in favor, Director Benesh?
I am.
Oh,
You can't see me?
Okay, that's unanimous, all in favor. So that's carried. Moving on to Cortez Island.
Your camera's working fine. We just had something else on the screen. Yeah, don't adjust anything.
Okay, thanks.
For receipt. Cortez Island
Move
Septic
receipt.
Study.
Second.
Thank you.
I believe Sheena will speak to this.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee. So this is just a brief report following up on the board direction to engage with the Clahoos First Nation to see if they had any interest in a partnership regarding the Cortez Island septage management. They were pretty quick to respond that they are in the process of developing their own wastewater treatment plant. Therefore, this service would not be of value to them. They did note that they would have been potentially interested in the marine effluent portion of this, but seeing as that was also deemed as not being advisable for inclusion, they reiterated that they just weren't interested. I did respond back asking if they would consider or had or would consider the acceptance of septage from the facilities from the residential septic facilities on island, and I've not received a response, so I'm not too sure if they're interested in that or not. And as of this morning, I still have not received a response. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, but basically everything I know is in the report. Thank you.
Director Manesh?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for following up on this and engaging with Clahoos First Nation leadership. I do think it's worth, just continuing the conversation with them. I think I would make a motion that, we continue to follow up on your last question to them and report back to the board or report back to East when, or if we do hear back from them. I know they've got a lot going on and this could still be an opportunity.
Was that a motion that I should second?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're still on receipt.
Do we need a motion for further follow-up, or would that just be included?
Receive it first.
Yeah, after receipt, we can have a motion. I think that would be good. I do have a question though myself, I was inspired. So if the Clahoos is working on a wastewater treatment plant, would there be a possibility of us then collecting our wastewater and possibly delivering it there instead of off island?
That was the question that I responded back to Mr. Dinning when he provided his response, was whether or not they would consider capacity within their system to receive the effluent from the Cortez septic fields, and they have not responded back. So I believe that is what Director Von Esch would like us to follow up on ongoing, but if that's a misinterpretation, if we could have clarification in the motion, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, I call the question on receipt. All those in favor?
Oh, I do have another question, Chair. If that's
Oh,
okay.
go ahead.
Thanks. Do you know what stage they're at as far as developing their own state-of-the-art sewage treatment center?
I do not.
Okay. I think that might be worth inquiring to as well, because if they're already building something, and if we can add some capacity to what they're already building and dramatically decrease the cost of what this project could look like, that's certainly something I'd be interested in pursuing. I think it's clear that when we're looking for partnership with the Clahoos, that we'd be potentially bringing dollars to the table and being a true partner on this project. Thank you. So once received, I'll make a motion.
Okay, call the question on receipt. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That's carried. And your motion, Director Van Esch?
Thank you, Chair. I'll move that SRD staff continue communication with Clahoos First Nation leadership around some kind of partnership that would allow on-island waste to be processed in a facility that was either owned by them or developed in partnership with us.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion by anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's unanimous. That's carried. Number 5, Electoral Area D, water meter installation contract amendment for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Second.
And Sheena can speak to this.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee. So this is follow-up from the August report. We presented the proposed plan to move forward with phase 2 of the universal water meter installation contract for Area D. So the letter that's appended to this report is essentially the contract revision, which includes the plan to locate the hard-to-find services, as well as the increased quantity of meters and setters that exceeded our contract value threshold. As noted in the report, the contract value is a worst-case scenario at just under $800,000, which is well within the $925,000 that was allocated overall to finish the project. So we're still looking pretty good, and I'm happy to answer any other questions about the contract revision. Thank you.
Directors, anything? Okay, on receipt, all those in favor? That's carried, unanimous. And a motion, Director Rice.
Like to move that the committee recommend that the contract amendment with Edged Excavating Limited for Phase 2 of the Electoral Area D Universal Water Meter Project be approved.
Second.
Director Vaness seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? And there's none opposed, that's carried. Number 6, Climate Resiliency Service Proposal, Electoral Areas A, B, C. No, B and C, I'm sorry.
Move receipt?
Second.
Second.
Sorry, my apologies, Chair. It should say A, B, and C.
No, that was a slip of my tongue.
It's not too late to join, Gerald.
How could I have been so foolish?
Think of all the wood chipping you're.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, so at this stage, this is, you can see the draft bylaw that shows the service and what it would include and the requisition required for the service. And unless there's further input from the committee, we would suggest bringing this to the board for consideration with the understanding that this would be, the service approval would come as a referendum question on the 2026 election.
Directors? On receipt, all those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. Got a motion? Director Mooney, do you have a motion?
I think I would like to move option A, and before I do that, I just had a question for the CAO. The motion here says that the wood chipping and climate resiliency service proposal be forwarded to the board for consideration of seeking electoral approval. Would it be beneficial to include the type of electoral approval that we're considering in the motion?
Sure, that's okay.
Okay, so we would say electoral approval referendum?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, well, I would like to move option A, that the wood chipping and climate resiliency service proposal be forwarded to the board for consideration of seeking electoral approval via referendum in 2026.
Second.
Director Rice, any discussion on that? Seeing none, on the question, all those in favor? And that is unanimous and carried. Number 7, Electoral Area Financial Assistance Grant and Aid Service for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Director Rice seconded.
I can leave this to Tom to speak to or open it up to questions if area directors have any.
Well, I can begin by saying that a requisition based on assessment isn't going to work. And hopefully we can find an alternative. And what I was thinking might be a possibility that staff would need to look into a little more closely would be similar to the fire department service for the Village of Sayward and Electoral Area A that's based on percent. If we could requisition on percent, I think we could make that work.
So are you thinking different percents for like,
Each electoral area.
okay, so are we thinking then, I'm just throwing this out there, let's say you said $100,000, 20% from area A, okay.
Yeah.
So come up with a total requisition amount.
The reason for that is, for example, area B and A have similar populations. I spend about 3,500. I think they spend around 35,000. So by percent, we could just figure out what the assets are and make it work. So if you can get back to us on that, it'd be great. Do you need a motion for that?
I think direction's fine here. We're just trying to find what you would like in terms of, you know, inputs, amounts, how, so we're just looking for feedback. So we'll make notes on direction.
Okay, that sounds good. Anything further, directors? Out of hand? No? Yes, Director Mooney?
Oh,
Director Vaness, you go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just following up on your question around the percentage, just looking for some feedback or thoughts from the corporate officer. You know, let's say we did set a percentage that was, you know, sort of in line with what we're doing our grants and aids right now. Is that something that we could change? You know, 2 years later, we want to change that percentage. Let's say, you know, Gerald wants to increase his requisition from 5% to 15%. Is that something, is that really messy to do, or can you go through the process of what that might look like?
Mr. Chair, if I could respond. In the likely event that Director Wally wanted to increase his share, that could be accomplished by a bylaw amendment. it's a fairly straightforward process. Depending on the amount of change, it may have to go back to the electors for approval, but other than that, it's fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, actually, I'll pass it and I'll come back to it in a second.
Anything further? Director Mooney?
Well, thank you, Chair. And I noticed that in the report on page 1, it has a list of 6 questions that staff were looking for feedback on. And one of them is talking about the proposed limit of 0.05 per thousand of property assessment. And I feel like we, at least myself, I'm not in a position right now to make that analysis because I don't really know what the breakdown is going to look like. You know, like, I think maybe we need to have a little bit more information about what traditionally or historically each electoral area has been doing, and then what if that number is a good fit for that. Like I can't tell from this report if that's true or not.
So, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, that would apply to the entire service. In other words, all of the electoral areas total, rather than per individual electoral area.
Right.
So if I can, tell me if I'm wrong on this. So what we would do is we create this service through the EAs. We would come up with a number, let's say we wanted to generate. We would look at, through those 4 areas, what the requisition amount would have to be. Now, you're going to have the ability to collect that, but just like Gerald Wally said, maybe Area A pays 20% of that. Back to Director Von Esch's question. So once the requisition limit is set, you got to stick with it for 5 years or go back. So when you're thinking this, I would suggest, because it's the requisition for the participants, so let's say the 4 EAs in there, just because you set it at that high doesn't mean you have to collect that. And if you set it higher than you need, it's going to be amongst you to change. You're going to have some ability to change the percentages, let's say you have within that, without maybe having to change the requisition. So we'll bring something back with more detail on what's historically used, but think of it as more as a sub-regional service, but you don't have to collect that amount, but it'll give you flexibility if you want to massage or change the percentages as years go along.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we take the assessed values for each of the 4 areas, divide that by the total requisition, we should come up with percents pretty easily.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, a report that was delivered a few months ago talked about this item, and based on historical grant levels, over the last 5 years, the limit has been 4.4 cents per thousand. So that's over the last 5 years. So 5 cents per thousand was offered as perhaps the limit that the committee might want to support, because it exceeded the average over the past 5 years.
Do you have any idea what 1% equals to for requisition total?
I don't offhand.
Okay. All right, Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I know that the calculations are being based on the historical, but Area D has been reducing their requisition over the last couple of years. So how does that get considered? Because, again, I don't want to stick with the historical. I actually want to reduce what we're requisitioning on grants and aids.
Okay, so if I can, Mr. Chair, here's how I would see that. So don't get too caught up on what the total requisition is. So let's just say it stays at 5 cents, and that would mean we collected, I'm making this number up, 100,000 as we traditionally have. You could jump in and say, as Director Wally has said, okay, because I'm reducing my amounts, I want mine to be 10% of that. So you'll have the ability to say, okay, if it's 100 grand, I'm only giving out 10 grand a year now, mine's 10%. And Director Wally could say, he's likely to say like 85% because he's pretty generous with that. And So you'll be able to massage it or control it, I should say, with the percentage of whatever this is, the total, it's kind of meaningless. You can dictate how much you're going to buy the amount that you connect your community to.
Just follow-up question, if we are going to do a bylaw, are we going to have anything in the bylaw that says that grants and aids need to come to the board at between such and such a dates?
Excuse me. So we can. Now, what we're currently working on is a board grant and aid policy that is concurrently at municipal services and EASC. I think EASC has given us a majority of their input on it. It's on the agenda for municipal services, and my hope is that I can bring that soon to the board, bring those two offerings together and say, based on the input here, this is what the policy is. And of course, at that time, if it isn't already there, you could say, hey, I want to add this, that, and the other, and the timing of it could be. But we're trying to come up with a unified grant and aid policy. Now, if you had your own grant and aid service, I'm imagining this would have a policy attached to it or not. But you could do current. But just so you know, we're working on a grander one. And if that's something that you want to, whether you participate in this service or maybe you just say, I'm just going to stick with what's out there right now, provide some input on when grants and aid are submitted.
Thank you.
When it comes to date, just remember that sometimes you'll get an emergency request that might change the priorities of who is going to get a grant and aid, and there's time constraints on that sometimes. Okay, good. Anything further, Director Maloney?
Thank you, Chair. What I was wondering about is we're creating a bylaw and we currently have single participant grant and aid services, correct? And that go to the board for ultimate decision. And this would be slightly different than that. But ultimately, we also have a bylaw every year, which is our financial plan. And in there, the directors can make recommendations for what they want their grant and aid to be. So would there be a lever or a potential linkage that we could include in this bylaw, which would refer to amounts that were specified in the financial plan bylaw?
Yeah, I mean, what we would do is, let's presume this was a 4 EA participant service. So when we brought, at the financial planning, we bring regional service, we bring individual service, and we bring sub-regional service. This would be a sub-regional service. It would come to East because you'd be the participants in there, and you would provide direction for the financial plan for this bylaw service if it was established. Does that answer the question? So whatever input you provided to us on that, we would embed it. So let's say you went around the table, everyone knew what their percentages were. They could alter those percentages and alter those amounts as direction. The four of you would presumably agree on that, and that's what would show up in the financial plan under this grant and aid service.
Okay, I think so. I think my question was more, is it possible for this bylaw to have a referral to another bylaw so that the financial plan bylaw ultimately sets the amount every year versus this one setting the amount? But I think that's what you're saying, is that.
Yeah, you can't dictate what the financial plan of the board says, so you can't make one reliant on the other, but certainly you can provide the input on this that would be included in the financial plan. So you've got a service, we bring it to you, we say, what percentage do you each want to pay and how much do you want to contribute? So we do that. That goes in the financial plan, and then the financial plan is ultimately endorsed by the board. But you can't have anything that supersedes the approval of the financial plan, right? Everything's kind of a recommendation, if you will.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one further comment, and that is on setting up scheduled service reviews within the bylaw. Does that still have to be 5 years, or if it's an internal review, can it be more frequent than that?
Mr. Chairman, the bylaw could set out a different process. So 10 years, 1 year, 6
Yeah.
months, whatever. So it's really up to the directors what they wish to propose to the board.
That's good to know, because I think that it may be in the future someone wants to opt out or didn't opt in, wants to opt in, that there needs to be that availability to do that on a fairly regular basis. You never know what future directors will do. Yeah, exactly.
So, Mr. Chairman, if that's the direction that the committee wants, then we
Yes.
can change the bylaw to reflect that.
Yeah, stick that in there, in the draft.
I also think on that note, just let's say you come up with a percentage value. You could say, for example, I want 0% this year. So that might be a way of dictating or controlling
Yeah,
that
that
as
would
well.
help.
We can provide flexibility.
Yeah. Okay. Director Vanesh.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering about the process of transition. Let's say we move forward with this, and I do hope we can all come up with something that works for all the electoral areas. But what is the process for, removing ourselves from the single occupant services that we currently have and jumping into this, and how would that transition affect any of the work that we want to do?
Mr. Chairman, if I can attempt to answer that. Right now, grants are covered under, it's a statutory service. So there's no guarantee that the province will even permit a bylaw that is being considered by the committee. But that statutory responsibility and authority will still remain. It applies to all regional districts. So I'm not really too sure what the transition that Director Vanesh has in mind might look like, but the current authorities for the board to award grants will remain. It's not going to be, the regional district of Strathcona will not be exempted from the statute that's in place.
If I can, I think I understand what Director Vanessa's question is, so that right now, each EA has a grant and aid amount in their budget. We're, in theory, I think, going to consolidate those, whatever those amounts are. And so let's say the service is established and we're in transition. We can reflect the amounts in those in the current system until the new service was established. Really what this would change would be the voting structure on those, of course. So I think the math and the amounts in the budget can be reflected to represent what this service is going to be. And until the service is established, the only thing that would change in there would remain the current voting status until the new service was established. So I think the math part is easy. And I think what you're getting at is a different voting process than what currently exists, because they're all single participant, which goes to the board. So let's say you would zero these out on your individuals. You would pool that into this service, and that voting structure would stay the same. So again, the math can be represented in transition, if you will, but the voting can't until the service is established. Does that make sense?
Great, thank you. Yeah, that does. Thank you. My last question is around timing. Is this something that we can get done before our next budget's complete? What seems realistic to staff as far as being able to complete this?
I'm going to say possibly. Always, as Tom has mentioned, that this has to go to the province for approval, and sometimes they're quick, sometimes they're not. So no guarantees, but I think if you provide the input that you would like to see in this, we can represent that in the service establishment. And if you support that, then that gets the process moving sooner rather than later. Certainly if we didn't get to this until, at some point next year, no.
So the single participant services already exist, they would be rescinded as part of this bylaw?
I don't know if they would be rescinded, but I'm assuming, again, those values in there would be zeroed out, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know if they have to be rescinded.
Well, they wouldn't because that's not really a bylaw, it's a policy. Those are not services. There are no service establishing bylaws for those, quote, single participant services. It's really, I think, dependent on what the board's policy around awarding of grants turns out to be, whether there's a need to keep that as some kind of fallback or whatever. I don't know.
If I think I understand what you want, and if it was up to me, what I would suggest is you'd zero out those numbers in there. That it would be a moot point. You'd have a service, this grant and aid service. You could establish whatever policy you wanted in terms of that as well.
Right.
And I'd just leave the numbers zero in.
Yeah, what I'm alluding to is that it would be beneficial, at least for area aid, to rescind the service completely, because otherwise, in reality, we have no control over it. I mean, the board could load our budget any way they wanted and then spend our grants and aids on a single participant service any way they wanted.
Well, to be clear, that's part of the statutory service provision that's in the Local Government Act. I don't think you can rescind it.
Okay.
It'll be there. Whether the board chooses to use it or not is another question.
Okay. Unfortunate. All right, on receipt then. Call the question. Trustee Moody, something else?
No, all in favor.
All in favor?
Hands up.
And that's unanimous, so that's carried. Number 8, request for financial assistance, Savored Secret Santa Claus for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
I'll just say on this one that the reason why it's $200 is because I had a request from the Savored Legion for, I think it was $1,500 if I recall, and that took away all the other funds that I had in my grant and aid budget. So the agreement I made with them was, because it's basically the same lady that runs this, who runs the Legion, that they would make up the difference. Anything else on our sheet? All those in favor? That's unanimous and carried. And the motion?
I can make that.
Thank you.
I'll move that the committee recommend. Oh, push my mic in? Okay, is that better? Sit closer. Move that the committee recommend that a grant and aid for the Sayward Secret Santa, care of the Village of Sayward, in the amount of $200 to assist with providing 2025 Christmas hampers and gifts to Sayward families in need to be paid from the Electoral Area A grant and aid budget.
Second.
Second.
Now, just a question for staff on this before we vote on it. I see it's going to go through the Village of Sayward. I don't have any problem with that. The person in question is just an individual citizen. They have no society or anything. The Village of Sayward has no difficulty giving them the equal grants that I provide. Why is it that we just can't give it to the individual just as the village does?
Off the top of my head, I can't think why. Like, I'm trying to think if there's something in the policy that says it has to go
Oh, maybe in the
to
policy there is.
society or not.
I don't think it's
I
in the
don't
policy.
know. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a reason.
I would prefer that it doesn't go through the village. Can we make an amendment and delete those words? Care of the Village of Sayward?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a reason why. Mike, can you think of a reason why that a grant and aid can't go to an individual? The reason I'm stumbling is I can't think of really almost any time that we do that, but that doesn't mean we can't, yeah, so.
There is a provision, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that the board cannot support private enterprise by giving to an individual.
Yeah, is this an enterprise? Giving away?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Anyway, I would appreciate an amendment to delete that care of the Village of Sayward.
Okay, I can make that amendment. I just also wanted to comment that I think we do have a precedent of providing grants and aid directly to individuals. I recall a regional grant and aid, I think it was $15,000. That was for a non-society, it was for fireworks in the
Right.
city of Campbell River, and that just came on a quick little email from somebody. So I don't think there is a need necessarily for that. I haven't seen it anyway. So I will move an amendment to strike care of the Village of Sayward.
We have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Rice. All right, all those in favor? And that is unanimous and carried. Thank you very much. Bylaws, number 611, electoral area D, rezoning, Lidenbach.
Like to move receipt of the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Director Maloney. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? On receipt? That's unanimous and carried.
Like to move item B, that the notice will be given in accordance with section 467, paragraph 1 of the Local Government Act. The committee recommend that bylaw number 611 be forwarded to the board for first, second, and third readings and adoption.
Second.
Director Maloney, all those in favor? And that is unanimous, carried. Number 2, bylaw number 625, Oyster River Bank Protection for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, anyone? See none? All those in favor? That is unanimous and carried. And a motion, Director Rice.
Like to move item B, that the committee recommend bylaw number 625 be submitted for approval of the electors using the alternate approval process.
Second.
Second.
Director Maloney beat you to it again. On the motion, all those in favor? And that is unanimous, that's carried. No correspondence, director's reports, new business, addendum items, closed session, motion for termination.
Move termination.
Second.
Favor? And that is unanimous and carried. That was seconded by Director Benice, I think. Oh, did he? Yeah. You seconded it? Director Rice seconded it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Mark.